Hi, everybody. Hope everyone had a great Sunday. As It's now getting colder out there, we're seeing the temperatures dropping, and we're going to talk about this weather system for Monday night into Tuesday. It's been, I believe, 52 or 53 days. Let's see, the 15, 46, and 6, 52 days since the snow back on November 15th, and we've had hardly anything except a couple of instances with the cheapest of cheap thrills. And this is a good way, excuse me, it's a good way for me to get back into a little bit of practice. So we're gonna start. I'm gonna go right to the NAM model tonight and take a look at this. Is the new NAM that's coming in right now, and we'll see what it's doing. This is we're getting this shot of cold air tonight, and as quickly as it comes in is as quickly as it gives way. This is the surface map that you're seeing here. I've got it already out to 4 o'clock this afternoon. It's 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock Monday afternoon. So clearly there are no issues. The high center is up north of Vermont, and you kind of can see that it's sort of squeezed in between the already falling pressures with the approaching system from the Great Lakes, and you've got a system that's well out into the ocean. So this is a fast in and out with the cold air. There's nothing really to hold it in. So you're going to work with whatever you have. Now, at least this particular shot of cold air is colder than some of the recent cold shots we've had, and some of that cold air tries to wedge in to the east side of the Appalachians. And when we have this warm front approaching, this is at 1 a.m. on Tuesday. The precip is in a narrow east-west band. There really isn't very much, even into the western border, the border of New Jersey and Pennsylvania at 1 a.m. But by 2 a.m., it's on the doorstep here. So I guess it really is going to be a matter of holding on. How much cold air do we hold on to as this precip quickly runs through here early Tuesday morning? So we're at 2 a.m. So by 3 a.m., we've got the leading edge of the precipitation almost into Bergen County, northeastern New Jersey. You see it up coming into western Orange, and then north and west of there up into the Catskills. There's a heavier band of snow that sets up across upstate New York. But you can also see that warm air is pushing through the Great Lakes, even on the northern flank of this. So the back edge winds up changing over to sleet and to freezing rain, and then it just ends. And that's really what we're dealing with. At 4 a.m., there's rain in New Jersey, at least on the NAM. It looks like the southern edge is maybe just south of Route 78. I've been kind of using Route 22 as the line for this, where north of Route 22, you'll probably have slick spots developing, particularly then if you go north of 78 and you get started going north of Route 80, you're going to have some slick spots, and of course, in the Hudson Valley. On Long Island, the New York City area, the areas in northeast New Jersey just surrounding that. So if you want to use I-95 as a demarcation line, if you're north and west of 95, you'll probably start to see increasing slick spots as you move in that particular direction, north and west. And notice that by this is at 5 a.m. It's raining. So it really, the cold air is gone. There's a lot here for this system to fight in terms of the fact that the high goes out where it is in Nova Scotia. You've got southwest isobars. It's not like we're going down to single digits tonight. We're going into the upper teens to mid 20s. And that's enough at least to get some snow at the very beginning. But gradually, this warm air is coming in so quickly that you see how it changes over to rain. This is at 6 a.m. and at 7 a.m. And you even have it just kind of ending as a little bit of light rain or drizzle in the Hudson Valley. One of the tricky things with this is you're probably going to have cold spots where the air gets trapped in valleys in northern New Jersey and in the Hudson Valley, particularly north and west of the Hudson. You're going to want to watch for some icing there, and then that is all gone. So it's pretty much from about say 2 a.m. to about 7 a.m. That is that 5-hour window. We'll be looking for clues to see if the cold air winds up holding a little bit longer. Maybe it lasts for an extra 15 to 30 minutes in some places. That could add an additional accumulation. But in terms of total accumulation from what the models are generating, it's not a whole lot. We're looking at through, we go back, so this is through 7 a.m. So if you look at the scale on the side, the first green shading is 1/100th to 5/100ths. So you've got 1, 5, a tenth, um, 15. So you're talking about 0.15 to maybe as much as 0.20 inches of liquid. If that were all snow, you would see an inch or two of accumulation. I tend to think that in areas where it winds up staying mostly snow, and I don't know that there'll be that many areas that will see that. Maybe up in Sussex and Warren County in New Jersey, northwestern Orange and Sullivan, and in parts of Putnam and Dutchess. Maybe somebody winds up with an inch or an inch and a half out of this. I guess that's not out of the question. The bigger amounts are upstate, where you get some 4 and 5/10 amounts in New York, and then on up into New England. We'll look at the NAM3. This might be a good instance where the NAM3 works out pretty well. And here again, it looks like it's mostly about 1 to 2, as most 2/10 of an inch of liquid. And as far as the NAM3's precip is concerned, this is at 2 a.m. It's maybe just a shade. It's about the same, really. 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Everybody north of Route 78 is snowing for at the start at 4 a.m. And then it goes over to rain and some pockets of freezing rain. So yeah, you guys know your areas better than I do in terms of what ices and what doesn't in situations like this. If that cold high were a bit colder, if we had the temperatures down in the single digits tonight or lower or middle teens, it probably would be a slightly different story, and you'd wind up with much more a longer period of frozen. That moves out, by the way, by around 8 or 9 a.m. And then you wait until this cold front. I got to go back to the other NAM because that goes out further now. We're out to 66 hours. There's going to be a cold front that moves on through. There's the warm front goes by first, the low crossing Lake Ontario, and then we get a cold front here tomorrow night. I'm sorry, Tuesday night, with a couple of rain showers with that, and then that goes by, and then of course you're going to see that turn much colder as we go into Wednesday. The second half of this week and into next weekend is going to be cold. We're going to see temperatures near or below average through the rest of the week, I think, and not crazy cold, but cold. And this low winds up in the Gulf of Maine, so there will probably be some sizable snow amounts in total in parts of upstate New York, in the Adirondacks, less in the Catskills, more as you go north and west in the Adirondacks, and then up into Vermont, New Hampshire, and up into Maine. This is always the kind of situation where, as far as northern New England is concerned, they wind up doing far better. The NAM's snowfall, and this is assuming that every drop falls, if every drop falls as snow through Wednesday afternoon, so just to cover the whole period, you can see some of the bigger amounts being indicated way up to the north. The skiers are really going to love this with some snows, but you'll notice, down in our neck of the woods, it's basically from a coating to maybe as you got some 1-inch prints there. So even the NAM on the 10-to-1 is not showing a whole lot, and it's not accounting for some of this to being sleet and freezing rain anyway. So I'm not really too concerned. It just comes in too quickly. The only thing I would say is let's watch the radars carefully tomorrow, because sometimes with these warm fronts they can give you a little bit of a little bit of a surprise spike in the precip. Here's the precip shield right now, and we're seeing some snows moving through the Great Lakes in some of that colder air on up in through North Dakota and in through northern Minnesota. There's a couple of solid bands of snow here that's working eastward, and of course in the warmer air to the south, we are seeing basically rain showers there across Iowa and into Illinois. And other than that, it's pretty quiet tonight in the east. up and down the East Coast and back through the Gulf states, a little shower activity back through Texas. And then, of course, you've got some um, pretty hefty rains going on in California, in central and northern California, big snows in the mountains there, and on up into the Pacific Northwest. I don't have, there are no advisories posted nearby, New York City, nothing, at least for now. I'm thinking you probably might see some up in upstate New York and New England. I'm anticipating, you know, the threshold for this, the advisories lately seems to be pretty low. I don't know what their criteria is. I think after the November 15th system, uh, they've, you know, perhaps are being a little bit more generous with regards to putting up advisories or not. But at the moment, they haven't done anything, and I'm not anticipating that they will. If they do, it would probably be more along the lines of tomorrow evening when they go up. That's just a guess on my part. You do have advisories up for Western New York. You have advisories up across the Great Lakes. You even have winter storm warnings up in the upper peninsula of Michigan and in a small portion there of northeastern Wisconsin and up through northeastern Minnesota. So that's the weather system that's coming. And of course, you can see all the big action out in the west as that is going on with some winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings that are up in that particular area. So moving through the week ahead, uh, I don't see any issues through the end of the week. And I'm thinking based on what I saw earlier today and what I've been sort of, you know, been seeing all along in the last several days, uh, this coming weekend doesn't look particularly bullish to me as far as snowfall. Now, I'm going to show you the GFS from late this afternoon because it it does make you think at least that there's going to be a chance maybe for something. So let's take a look. If you remember, I've been talking about the fact that we've got the jet streams the way they are, the split flow. You've got the northern jet, which right now is gaining a bit more control because we're getting this shot of cold air. This is, of course, now we're looking at Wednesday night into Thursday. So there's your low that goes by Tuesday night. Cold air comes in, high comes down from Canada. We are going to be fairly cold down into here we are Friday night. The rain snow line, by the way, is that southernmost dashed blue line that runs across northern North Carolina back through Kentucky to about St. Louis, and then cuts up through Nebraska. So the colder air does push down pretty far south into the Carolinas with that high that is up over north of Lake Superior. You don't actually see where they have the H's, but the highest pressure is north of there. And you're seeing precip breaking out because of energy coming through in the southern stream. You're seeing rain through Texas and into Arkansas and some snow being indicated by the GFS in parts of Tennessee and into southeastern Missouri. Now, the idea is here you've got southern stream energy there. You have snow up in Wisconsin and in northeastern Minnesota from some northern stream energy that's going along. And they do stay separate. But what the model did this afternoon was kind of got very vigorous with this southern stream energy. And suddenly on Saturday, it's snowing through all of Virginia, northern North Carolina, back through West Virginia, and in southern Ohio. I don't know if I believe this. Okay, we've got a big high sitting north of New York State in Canada, a 1048 millibar high. It's a pretty strong high pressing down. There's plenty of cold air. You're looking, if you're staring at this and you're thinking, you know, this would probably be a setup for snow or mostly snow for us. But the problem is that the models don't have a system coming down from the north to pick this up and lift it up the East Coast. At least that's what I was actually quite surprised to see this as vigorous as it is. And I have my doubts about it with regards to it showing it something this developed. This is one run. It suddenly popped up and decided that it was going to get more vigorous with this. And you look at this on Sunday afternoon, cold high to the north. You have a low sitting off the North Carolina coast. You've got snow into southern New Jersey, southernmost Pennsylvania, down into Virginia, and probably generating some fairly decent amounts of snow at that. Again, this is all the model's doing. It's the model snapshot. I'm not forecasting this. But from here, it starts to go east. The low just pretty much gets shunted straight to the east. Uh, One lead low goes out. You've got the upper low that moves eastward now. You get more snow in Virginia, North Carolina, and that gets pushed southeastward. So why is it doing that? Well, if you take a look at the upper air, it kind of it'll tell you the story of what's happening. So you've got your southern energy here. This is Friday afternoon. If you look back through West Texas and southward into Mexico, when the little blue splotch is, so you've got a southern stream shortwave there, and it's a little hard to see, but back through Minnesota and into South Dakota, you've got some northern stream energy. And frankly, at this point here, going into Saturday morning, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, this might have a shot to at least start to lift up. But the problem is that northern shortwave just kind of bypasses it. It just goes away. And the northwest flow, if you look at the flow from central Canada at the top, if you go to this right in the middle of the map at the top in Canada, and then go from there to about to just south of Boston, you've got a straight northwest flow. That northwest flow just holds there and squashes this whole thing out to the south and east. There's nothing. There doesn't seem to be any kind of upstream trough that would come down and lift it up. This is something that the European did. If you remember back a few days ago when the European tried to make a big storm near Cape Cod for next weekend, it's because it phased the streams, it timed out everything just absolutely perfectly and brought it up. Well, that was a one-run wonder that we saw. And instead, you wind up with this whole thing just kind of getting squashed out to the east southeast. I have to say, honestly, given the kind of winter we've had so far, you have to favor the idea that that's what's going to happen. If it's even this vigorous, I'm questioning even if this setup is as dynamic as what the model is suggesting. Well, we're going to have the night runs to look at to see if this is the beginning of a new trend or if it was just a one-run situation where it appeared. Now, just going into the longer term, we've got the flow once again in the Pacific is going to hold the key here. And one of the things that I've been emphasizing is the fact that whenever you have this sort of ruler where the flow across the Pacific from Asia all the way to the West Coast is straight westerly, it's very, very hard to maintain any kind of true polar connection. And at least for the start of the week of this would be the week of the 20th, you do have a bit of a rulerish look going into it. Now, it does wind up breaking down that week, and that is a very good sign in the long term with regards to uh, where we might wind up with that, where the pattern may wind up going. That Pacific pattern has got to break down. You cannot have this straight line ruler flow with weather systems just crashing into the west, because that again it deflects the polar air up further north into Canada, which during that as we go through that, we're going to see that happen temporarily. I'm sorry, we're in the week of the getting my dates wrong here. So we're in the week of the 14th. But after that, as we go through the week of the 14th, the Pacific starts to change. This is something that models keep indicating, and it has to follow through on this. The Pacific has to change. Instead of having that sort of ruler flow, you start to get troughs and ridges that develop, and you have what seems to be a deep trough that forms near the international date line, and that allows the establishment of a polar connection. Again, this could, the models have been kind of hinting at this. They've been trying to do it. They don't always seem to be succeeding, but they still keep pointing in this direction. And you have to think that maybe, they do have something here as we get into the latter part of the month. I do want to go to show you I want to show you the climate models. And here we have, let's get this in terms, I'm going to show you the temperatures. This is the CFS model. It's a climate model, and it goes out about 6 weeks. The first week here is the week of January 13th through the 20th. So it has slightly below normal temperatures there, right along the immediate coast of the Carolinas, and then you start seeing above average temperatures. The actual amounts over us aren't all that high. And remember, this is over 7 days, so you could have one very warm day being offset by 6 cooler days. That's what this doesn't tell you. If the warm weather comes for a day or two, and the rest of the time temperatures are averaging a bit below, that's the short range issue. But we start to see a gradual weakening of the above normal temperatures from the now we're in the week of the 20th to the 27th. You're going to see that increasing area of slightly below average near the coast, slightly above average as you go further to the north and west, and then the stronger 2, 3, 4 degree above averages shift to the plains. And now we're into January 27th to February 3rd, and you'll notice that it has uh, pretty much everybody east of the Rockies below average, and it actually shows some of the stronger below average numbers on the order of 4 or 5 degrees or more below average for the Ohio Valley and for the East Coast. This is again the week of the 27th. I'm sorry, this is the week of January 27th to February 3rd. Then from February 3rd to February 10th, you're seeing also a widespread below average temperatures everywhere east of the Rockies. And then from the 10th to the 17th, it starts to shrink it away a little bit. But if you're looking for the possible, this idea that we are going to see the pattern go to something much colder over time, then you at least have the support of the climate models here, and they are, they kind of been going with the idea of what we've been seeing with these clues on the GFS and on the European model. Again, the key is going to be that Pacific. You got it. The Pacific has got to break down that ruler flow. So it's like a fire hose, and it just seems like every winter uh, we get into that fire hose pattern from the Pacific at some point during a winter season. It's a very very hard thing to fight uh, when it's in place, and it makes it obviously very difficult for storms to come here into the east. Uh, there's just too much warm air, but if you could see if that if the Pacific jet stream pattern breaks down, that's a big deal. Okay, and while all this is going on, Europe just is getting, Central and Southern Europe got clobbered with heavy snow and cold, and they're going to continue to see waves of cold air there because of the polar vortex and how it's all set up. That is going to hold, by the way, through the 16-day period. So at least from the standpoint of what's going on way upstairs in the atmosphere, the chess pieces are all apparently where they should be. We've got a vortex that's come down into the eastern part of North America, up into eastern Canada. It's forecast to pretty much sit there for the next 16 days. Eventually, you would think that that's going to work its way down and change the pattern at the lower levels of the atmosphere. No guarantees that that'll happen, but that's usually it does reach down and it does something. Uh, it's kind of hard, but so I get used to winter after winter these last couple of years, these last number of years, having all sorts of weird situations set up and having to deal with numerous events going forward. It's just been kind of odd. This is how it was for those of you that are uh, don't go back as far. The winters in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, most of them were like this, like this winter has been, and it gets very frustrating. And you kind of wait for much of the winter to get maybe a couple of snowfalls, and that's it. Uh, so keep your fingers crossed that that Pacific fire hose goes away because it really does need to. Um, Southern systems, although suppressed, have wound up a little stronger than advertised, said Jason Schaefer. Yes, I would agree with that. Um, I would certainly agree with that. Peter Bicker. Actually, when you think about it, Peter, the setup here is not that different. I got to go back and look again, but it is eerily similar to on the late afternoon run. And again, I want to emphasize that that was one run that did that. If we go back to the one prior to it, it really didn't do very much at all with it earlier today. I'll bring that back up, and we'll bring that up to the front here. Hang on. Okay, so let's go back to the GFS. It is too early for the new one, by the way. And let's just wait for all the maps to load. Let me make sure it's centered so you guys can see it pretty well. All right. So, there's your system for tomorrow night into Tuesday night, cold air. Here comes that southern stream. So that's the old run. I mean, that's the late afternoon run. Now let's go back to the one from earlier today and look at the difference. So we went from this high coming down, very suppressed. Cold air just basically suppressed this thing way to the south and east. Doesn't even come close. And the major difference is suddenly that southern stream shortwave, which is you could barely. I mean, it's there. It's down through East Texas and on southward. And if you look at the latest 18Z run, it's so much more vigorous here as it moves eastward. In fact, it even briefly cuts off. It's much deeper with that southern stream energy. Is it real? I don't know. Perhaps the models are picking up on what this system is coming into the Pacific. Perhaps in the West, it is picking up on the idea that maybe that system is going to be stronger as it moves in. I'm not sure. Let's go back. I want to just look at the origins of this. So let's move it back. So here we are. Because it's yet to come in. So here we are at tonight. We've got this big system coming into the northwest. And that, of course, translates into the east. So this is the system that's coming in around Wednesday. And it moves it along and amplifies it as it moves eastward. I don't know. I'm kind of suspect about it, just on the basis of what we've seen in prior runs. I do. Usually, my experience has been that you obviously are still way out in the long range, so you've got that variable. I usually would rather see trends of models show hints of systems in the longer term and then watch them gradually strengthen the systems as they move eastward. We've seen it a number of times in the last month where the reverse has happened, where you see the models generate these storms in the long range, and then as we get into the short range, they wind up getting destroyed. So you have to think that maybe that's where this is going to go. That eventually you're just going to wind up seeing this thing just get annihilated as we get closer and closer to the event. So just kind of summon, well, Stephen Franco, do I think that the system for this weekend has a chance to come up a little further north? I just look, I don't even know that I even believe the 18Z GFS run, to tell you the truth. So that was just that was a bit of a shocker to me to see that. So first things first, let's see some follow through overnight and during the day tomorrow. If we're sitting here tomorrow night dealing with 5 runs in a row of it doing something with that southern stream system, then I think we could maybe start to look at it a bit more seriously. But right now, it's hard for me to take it seriously since it's just popped it up. And I'm anticipating that in a couple of hours when the new run is out, I'm anticipating that it will go back to a bit the suppressed look and that it's not going to be an issue. But you are going to have a problem with that split northern jet. You got to have something in that northern jet that nudges it up. And if you wind up where that is not the case, you're going to see it get suppressed. Peter Bicker, good question. Let me take a look at the 18Z parallel. I didn't actually look. I don't think I looked at the parallel today at the 18Z, but let's take a look. Hang on, let me just make this a bit bigger so you guys can see it better. And we'll go to the parallel GFS. Well, that's interesting. Just for the same time frame, it also has a vigorous system in the south. All right, now here's the thing. Okay, so here is where the parallel GFS, which is soon to be the regular GFS, is bringing a short wave in that northern stream down and around, and it tries to, right there, you see how it phases it in and lifts up. You've got this upper low, the whole trough kind of lifts northeastward and goes up into just off of near Boston with the upper low. Now, if you get your short waves to time out this way, then yeah, we could be dealing with something here. But again, I want follow through. All right, I desperately want follow through. And naturally, I should have looked at this before I came on. The 18Z, because it has a phase, has a potential for a big snow. Again, one run. Go back. Let's go back to 12Z. The German model today, by the way, showed some hints of this, but here's the 12Z, suppressed and out. And why? Because let's look at the upper low. Let's watch the upper air. So let's back it up. Here's that southern stream shortwave, and you have a very weak northern. You see, if you look up on the upper right, you can see a shortwave dropping down from near James Bay southeastward toward Nova Scotia. Okay, it's too far out. So it would all phase out and goodbye. So now you've got the 18Z with this. I have to laugh because only because of the of the fact that it you got this thing, you got the model just that it's on this snapshot just timing everything out. I mean, that would be that would be the way to do it. If you want a snowstorm to come up the East Coast, this is what has to happen. Okay, and then it goes out. We get mild but not crazy warm. Another trough middle of next week. It has a kind of a different look to things in the overall future for next week. If you want to believe it, let me just take a look. Let's move it through. So it's got not a whole lot of cold air through the middle of now we're in the week of January 13th. Okay, so beyond that, then you start to get really cold air moving down. So I'm guessing that it probably breaks down the Pacific in the long term. I can't look out there. It doesn't go out that far, so we can only guess. So let's take a look at this upper air and see what that does. I'm just so you got this ruler look. You see how that ruler look there? And then it does break it down as we get into the long term. So at least you have the support of the parallel GFS to want to break things down. That's actually evolves to a very cold look in the long range. So at least that would support what the climate models are doing. The last day on this is January 22nd. That still gives you plenty of time, by the way. A lot of the weenies seem to think that we're at the beginning of March or the end of February, and I mean we've got so much time to play with here with regards to pattern shifts. If you're looking for a snowy or colder pattern to set in and hold for a while, what we're going to have this week is it's going to last, Wednesday through Sunday. I guess it'll depend too on what happens what happens next weekend. But again, I am taking the view that this is not I don't. I can't take it seriously. I can't take either run seriously for now. Okay, it's. I want to see follow through. I am anticipating the very next run will go back to the suppressed look, but I've been surprised before. If we're sitting here tomorrow night, if tomorrow night on my 7 o'clock YouTube live stream, if it's on the models during the day tomorrow, it will be the subject for conversation tomorrow night. Let's put it that way. Okay. All right, folks. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Front and center, you had a great weekend. That's a good thing. Uh, Normal week for me this week for the most part. So tomorrow we'll have should have time to throw a live stream up tomorrow morning. I'll maybe do a quick one as we head into whatever we're going to have tomorrow night, and a quick look at the morning models and see what they tell us. And of course, you'll have posts during the day to watch and read. And then tomorrow night, the regular YouTube live stream, and then tomorrow night after the regular YouTube live stream, we have the Joe and Joe show on Facebook. So again, I hope everybody had a great weekend. I certainly did, and we will see you. We'll see you tomorrow.